Welcome to the first of several videos on the use of SPSS. These assignments are based on chapters from Yaki's book, SPSS Demystified. In this video, we'll be looking at Chapter 1, the Introduction to SPSS. These videos are part of the EDDL 7333 course at Dallas Baptist University. So Chapter 1 in Yaki, we are asked to take the following data and enter those into a data frame so that we can perform an analysis. You'll notice that there are several people in this. There are 5 individuals whose data are provided here, and we know about their gender, their age, their employment status, and their IQ. And you'll note down below here that gender is coded as 1 equals male and 2 equals female, and for employment 1 equals employed and 2 equals not employed. And so our first task is to take these data and enter those into the data frame in SPSS. So once you follow the directions and you open up SPSS, you should be confronted with a blank data frame, and within the frame you can click back and forth between 2 different tabs. Notice at the bottom here we are looking at the variable view, and you can also click on the data view, and the data view provides a place for you to actually type the data in. We're going to start with the variable view as outlined in the Yaki text beginning on pages 8 and 9. And so the first thing we'll need to do is to enter in the names of our variables, and recall that our first variable was called gender, so we'll type that in the first row. Then age and employment and IQ. So those are the 4 variables that are part of this particular data set. The next step then would be to define the variables that are categorical, and gender is one of those, employment is the other. Gender happens to be a dichotomous variable because there are only 2 possible values in there, male and female. So under the values column, what we'll do is we'll enter in a 1 there, and we'll code that as male and add that, and then put a value of 2, and have that equal to the term female, and add that as well, and then click OK. And then once we've done that, then we've got this definition. What this will do is take the coding that's in the actual data itself, and then when it presents the results, instead of putting a 1 or a 2 there, it'll actually give us the term male or female. And the same thing's true for employment. So recall that for an individual that's employed, that's equal to a 1. So we'll type in a 1 and then say that they're employed, and click add, and then a 2 would indicate that they're not employed, and add that as well, and click OK. So now we've got some values defined for each of those 2 variables that were dichotomously coded. So then under age, we know that age is a different type of variable. So over here we might want to actually define the type of measure that's there. So there's different ways to classify our measurements, and with gender and race, ethnicity, and in this case an employment status, these are categorical, and so under this system we're going to call them nominal. And so our gender variable is considered to be a nominal variable, as is our employment variable, because they are individuals are either male or female, or they're employed or not employed. However, the other 2, age and IQ, we're going to code those as scale variables, because it's possible to have multiple values of age and multiple values of IQ, and they're not grouped into particular categories, and so we're going to code those as being scale variables. So once we've done that, then we're ready to go over to the data view. So I'm going to click on this other tab, and now we have something that looks very much like a Excel spreadsheet. And now you'll notice, as opposed to before where it just said variable all the way across, now I see the names of our 4 variables that we've put in under the variable view: gender, age, employment, and IQ. And so now what we need to do is go ahead and, using the data that were presented earlier in the table, to type them in. So I'll type them in while you do, and then I'll pause this and we'll come back once the data have been added to the table. Okay, so what I've done is gone ahead and typed in the data according to the earlier data table that we had seen. So now you can see that gender, the first 2 individuals are males because I put 1s in there, and individuals 3 and 4 are females because there's 2. Put their ages in there, their employment status, and their IQ. So the next thing that the Yaki example asks you to do is to run a report to summarize the cases. This basically tells you how many cases are in there. So we're going to run this by selecting Analyze, and then going to Reports, and then Case Summaries. And then once we've done that, we're going to highlight all of these. So I can highlight the first one and press Shift and click on the last one. And then I want to put all of those over here. So I'll use this little arrow and put those all over there as the variables. And then in order to run the analysis in SPSS, you click on the OK button. So I'll click on that. And so now we can see the output. So I just want to show you that there's actually 2 things here. So I've got the data editor where all of our data are, and then there's this other window that's opened up, and you'll notice this says output. So you've got 2 windows open, so don't be confused when this other window opens up. Just know that you've got 2 windows. You have your data editor and you have your output window. And so in looking at the output window, now we can see what the summary report looks like. And for gender, age, employment, and IQ, we can see that we have a complete data set. It tells us how many values are in there in each one of those variables, 5, and then none of them are excluded. In other words, there's no missing data. And then down here at the bottom, I can see for each one of the 5 people what their status was for gender, age, employment, and IQ. Notice that it's taken the term male and put it in there when there was a 1, and put the term female in there when there was 2s. Same thing for employed and unemployed. So when we went through the work earlier under the variable view, that allowed us to actually force those coded values into reporting as some text value: male, female, employed, or unemployed. So now we see that under case summaries here that our ages, we have actually some extra decimal points out there, and as well as IQ. And if we go back to our data set, we'll notice that sort of by default the data set has, as we typed in the numbers, you probably noticed that it added these 2 extra decimal points. So that may be a little annoying to you. You can actually remove that by going to the variable view, and you see under this column it says decimals. You can change that in each case to 0. And when you do that and go back to the data view, you can see now that those are whole numbers, and we no longer see the out to the hundredths decimal place. Now, just so you know, there are some other features to this program, and it's pretty extensive. One of the things that you might need to do in future studies is to actually manipulate the data in such a way that you might want to sort them. So you'll notice that under the data in the menu at the top that there's an option called Sort Cases. So I can select under that, I can select any of these. So let's say I want to sort them in terms of age. I can put the term age over there and select whether I want ascending or descending order, and click OK. And then you'll notice that when we're back in this data view, that now all of the cases are sorted according to age. So the other thing we can do is actually exclude some cases from the analysis, also using the data choice. So you can see down here at the very bottom there's one called select cases, and for that you'll notice by default all the cases are included, so all 5 of these people are included in the analysis. However, we could actually select only some of them. We could pick only the males or females. We could pick those who are employed or unemployed, or even use an operational sort of selector. So you see there's several choices here. I'm going to pick the next one that says if this condition is satisfied, we're going to select those particular cases. So when I click on if, now I've given this table, and as we look at this, we see we can pick the variable that's involved. So in this case, let's say we only want to select those individuals that have an IQ above 90. So I'll select IQ and put it over here and use the greater than sign. You can select it here or just type it in. So IQ is greater than 90, and then when I click continue and then OK, what it will do is, you'll notice here, it will actually put a little line there indicating that when I run the analysis, it will not include those people who had IQs that were less than 90. So just to point this out, let's go back and run the same report that we did before, the case summary report, and now we've got all these data in here. I'm going to select OK, and looking at our output, when I go down here now, you'll notice that I only have 3 individuals that have been included. Okay, so individuals 1, 2, and 3, and so any of those individuals that had an IQ under 90 or less were excluded from this analysis. So it is possible to do some manipulation of that, and just to give you an idea of how this works also, is you'll notice that when we did that, it added this new column here that it calls filter. And that filter column, if it has a 1 there, those are individuals that are included, and a 0 indicates that they are excluded. So because we did that point and click stuff under data here to select only certain cases, it actually added a column to our data set. And so that's one of the features of SPSS that it does, is it'll oftentimes add certain columns to your data set so that you can use those in other ways. So the last piece to this is to actually save something. So we may be interested in saving this output. Now, just as a note, one of the things I do is ask you to take the data from the output and submit that. So over here, you'll notice that there's this outline that's created in the output, and if you click on some of these headings over here, it'll actually highlight the data that's in the set here. So let's say I want to take this little table here called case summaries and put it into a Word document. Works a little bit differently in Word, in Mac versus Windows. But if you've got this highlighted in Windows, you can go up here and File, and you can copy special. There it is. Right click on it, copy special. You can select rich text or image, or if you want to put it in an Excel worksheet, you can put it there. I'm going to select rich text because what I want to do is put it into a Word document, and click OK. Then I'm going to open Word and open a new document there, and then I can go up here, paste. I can paste that in there. So there you see that you can fairly easily copy and paste these output files and the portions of the output files and put those right into a Word document, save those, and then submit those as part of your assignment.